Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're going to be doing an overview video of the Taldorei Reborn book that was just recently released. But yeah, give our thoughts on it, go through kind of each chapter by chapter, kind of what it talks about, if you should get it, if you shouldn't get it, who it's for, that kind of deal on here. Yeah, so if you're new to the channel, we have our D&D Beyond Players Bundle giveaway, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in that.
Yep.
Thanks again to our sponsors, Hit Point Press, and their Big Bads series and all of that stuff. Awesome stuff from them coming all the time. Animated spell cards. They have campaign settings. They have character creation stuff.
Yep.
They got all kinds of accessories and stuff for players, DMs, all that. Make sure you check them out. Lots of cool stuff. Support them. Support us. Helps us do more stuff. Do more giveaways. All that great stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All that being said, let's jump straight into it, guys. If you are familiar with the Critical Role series and all that, which I imagine most people are,
at least at this point, you have it's got to be considered like a franchise,
yeah, I would say
or
at
like
this point,
a universe.
Most people at least have heard of it, if anything. If you're unfamiliar, they had come out with a campaign setting book published by them. I believe it was 5 years ago.
Was it that long ago?
I think it was 2017 when it came out.
Oh, wow.
The first campaign, I believe, is when it came out. So, yeah, they came out with that.
We were still in our 20s then. That's funny. Sorry, I couldn't help myself.
Anyways, yes, so if you had that old book, you'll notice some similarities in here. There are lots of things that have been updated. There are some things that have not been touched quite as much.
Yeah.
But basically, what we have on here is an updated campaign setting, okay?
Yep.
So I would say, just right off the bat, before we get into all the nitty-gritty of stuff, if you missed the first book and you are interested in this campaign setting, this is going to have a lot of information for you. If you had the old book and you're wondering if you should even bother getting the new book, we'll get to that. So, looking up on here, we have, it's 6 chapters in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Chapter 1, we have Welcome to Tal'Dorei. This is just kind of giving some history, some mythos of the world, calendars, cosmos.
Yeah.
Just some very foundational history to the world.
It's every definition of an introduction to the setting and how this world takes place.
Absolutely. So it's just very, very basic stuff on here. And then we get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty side of stuff, which is the allegiances of Tal'Dorei in Chapter 2.
Yep.
With this, we're getting a deep dive into the pantheon of Exandria, where you're talking about the prime deities, the betrayer gods, and lesser idols. So these are going to be the really big players in the world. You're going to have stuff that clerics interact with. You're going to have things that potentially cults and things could go with betrayer gods or lesser idols. Just, you kind of have your prime deities are like your big, good deities. Then you have your betrayer gods, which you can tell by the name. They're more on the evil side of things. Oh. And then you have your lesser idols, which are kind of, I think the best way to describe them is maybe like a greater, like an archdevil or something, where they're not quite to like deity level, but they're high end. They're potentially
the step, like one step down kind of
thing. That's kind of the short end of the stick of how that works out. And then you have your factions and societies as well, which it goes down into tons of different ones on here.
Because you've got 4 or 5, some, depending on how much it's involved. Like the Tal'Dorei Council has got like 4 whole pages about who they are, what they are, how their society works, their government, all that other kind of stuff. Before you get to the Tal'Dorei Gazeteer, which is going over locations, like the geography, the environments that you encounter, like, types of creatures, weather, any kind of terrain, all that kind of stuff that happens. Then we really get into what's the meat for non-DMs.
Right. I think that's a good way to say it. Although, to be fair, a lot of that lore stuff can come into play in character creation, backstory-wise.
Sure.
Like if you're really
it's helpful information.
Right. Like, if you want to know, I'm from Lucidian Coast.
Yeah.
You go to that chapter and you kind of read through, this is what my character would be familiar with, because this is where I'm from.
Right.
You don't need to go through all of these individual locations because it might not really pertain to your character.
Right.
But
and you may never go there.
If you really want to dig into backstory, you can go to that chapter and read more about your hometown.
And you probably should. If you plan on being from this continent and doing a campaign out of here, you're going to be from, like you said, Lucidian Coast or Stormcrest Mountains because you're a traveling barbarian who likes to roam or wherever. And then you should read through there and know more about the backstory because it'll create a more compelling character for yourself and for the rest of your party to interact with.
It gives you the content to be able to do that if you want to. Obviously, you don't need to, but if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of the world, you have that option available to you.
It's better that way. Chapter 4 gets to our character options, as we say. It lists the races that are most common, which are, again, nothing too wild and crazy from what's normal, in traditional 5th edition stuff. One thing it does add in here, which I think is interesting, is the mixed ancestry.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up, too.
I know, I got it. I got it. And how it actually reads into, like, suggestions for taking, like, bits and pieces of a race. You could take, like, maybe 2 of this race's features and 2 of this race's features and kind of play it on there together as an option. And I like interesting options like that. Then it goes to specifically talks about Hemocraft because it's blood-based magic because there's, Blood Domain Cleric that messes with it and Blood Magic Wizard. And I think some of the Circle of the Blighted Druid and Sorcerer, the Rune Child, kind of talk about it and how it's like flavored, even though it doesn't use Hemocraft.
Right.
But the big 2 obviously are Blood Cleric and Blood Magic Wizard. So I say that there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 subclasses in this book. Now, a couple of those, the Blood Magic Wizard, the Way of the Cobalt Soul Monk, the Open Sea Paladin, were all in the original book.
And Juggernaut.
And Path of Juggernaut. Yeah, that's right.
I think those 4, Cobalt Soul, Blood Cleric, Path of Juggernaut, and Runechild were the 4 originally.
Yeah.
And then they had, on D&D Beyond, they released the Cobalt Soul updated.
Yeah.
And then the Oath of the Sea Paladin.
Yeah.
And then we got the brand new ones are College of Tragedy, the Moon Domain Cleric.
Yep.
And
Circle of the Blighted Druid.
Circle of the Blighted Druid and the Wizard Blood Magic.
Yep.
So, of those, though, almost all of them were at the very least updated.
Yeah.
If you want to see the in-depth videos of all of these subclasses and the reviews,
we already did them already.
So go ahead and check those out.
In our normal subclassy way.
Yes. So the D&D Beyond ones were the least touched, but everything else was really updated.
Yep.
So make sure you check those out.
Especially Runechild Sorcerer.
Yeah, for sure.
Of all the updated ones, it was the one that was the most modified in the best ways.
Yes, so make sure you check that one out.
Lists, of course, some extra backgrounds, like if you're from the Ashari, you're a member of the Clasp, the roguish, society, and then Lyceum Scholar, Reformed Cultist, which is, general. That's kind of a general thing around there. And then the Whitestone Rifle Corps, my personal favorite.
Because this takes place, I think it's 20 or 30 years after Campaign 1.
30 is what I'm thinking, yeah.
Somewhere around there. I can't remember the exact time period.
And then there's even some new feats, and then the Supernatural Blessing, the Fate Touch, is listed. So a good chunk of the book is meat-wise. That's as you would want probably in a lot of books that really to try to draw you into it is character creation where that's going to be out, and there's a lot of good stuff in there, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially if you didn't have the original book.
Right. And I think some of these, feats and backgrounds were in the original book. I can't remember all of them that were.
Right.
I know several of them were for sure.
Yeah.
But, again, a lot of these have been updated.
Yeah.
So either with updated lore text at the very least, or just updated tweaks and balance changes as well.
Yeah.
So definitely worth checking out. Again, even if you've had the old book, the changes have been tweaked. There's been more balance testing and balance tweaking on here. So something to consider. And then Chapter 5 we have set up for the Game Master's Toolkit. It has some suggestions for creating adventures. And then it has a whole section on Taldorei treasures. It has a bunch of magic items. It has tools of the Ashari, which are interesting magic items that are related specifically to the Ashari, as the name implies. I think one of the ways to quickly convey this message is if you think of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
He has this little kite thing.
Yeah.
There you go. I pretty much have one of those in here. So just kind of
Ashari.
Like tools that would be used by people who are related to the Ashari.
Yep.
As the name implies. And then you have the big draw, I would say, which is the Vestiges of Divergence.
Because those things are bonkers.
And with those, they have the 3 levels that upgrade based on character development or plot points in the story. It's up to you as the DM how you want to advance those. But there are all mostly reprints for those.
Yeah.
Minus, I think there's one brand new vestige on there. I think, actually, let me double check really quickly on here. I know all the ones in the first campaign are in here. And I think also the ones from the first book I'm trying to remember if they added. I don't think they did from the official Wizards Coast.
Oh yeah.
For Wildmount.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if they added those in here or not. I don't think they are in here. They might be. I don't think they are. No, it doesn't look like it. So these are all from the original book, and several of them have been updated.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe one or two that are pretty much untouched, but I think almost every single one of these has had some kind of tweak to it.
Yeah.
So definitely worth checking out. Extra 5 years worth of testing and balance.
Yeah.
Can make a huge difference.
Sure
so
can.
I would definitely consider that if that's something that you're really interested in, is those crazy magic items, because they are a lot of fun. And I've actually, even for our campaign, I've created some of my own in the same kind of vein that have upgradable stuff. So it could be really good for inspiration.
Still waiting on the third, like that exalted version of my tome for to do very fun things.
But yeah, lots of magic items. And then some optional campaign rules, with the resurrection rules, probably the biggest one on here that most people know of, with having the ceremonies to bring people back.
Right.
And some stuff like that. Arduous rally, some extra mechanics that you can throw in to make things a little bit more interesting or dynamic, just based on DM discretion, of course.
Right.
And then, all that being said, we have the last chapter of the book, which is your monster manual / NPC section, which they call Allies and Adversaries of Tal'Dorei. So you're going to have your NPC, which is nice. It has some non-player character options on here.
Yep.
Then it has a bunch of monsters. Again, some reprints from the original book. Oh, I think actually a good chunk of them are reprints, but again, the updates do make it worthwhile. And I think one of the biggest things to this book that I really appreciate is the original book didn't have a whole lot of art in it. But this new book has fantastic art.
There's your Androsh. It's like this big, like arcane-infused, like griffin sphinx kind of thing. That's what I was trying to flip through. Like, even when you think of like the Ember Rock, but you think of like a phoenix kind of thing.
Yeah.
They look even like the golems. This is a golem, but like even they look like the Cobalt golem looks really neat.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite things about this book is all of the art is so good. It looks like top-end, high-quality, official Wizards of the Coast quality art in this book. So it's just really cool stuff to see on there. And then I think one of the things that a lot of people really wanted to see were the character stat blocks for Vox Machina.
And guess what?
They got them all in there. There's big old Daddy Grog.
And there's the first one you get to is obviously Grog himself.
And of course they are older.
Yes.
I think most all of them are like CR 18 or so.
Yeah, Grog is an 18.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think Vax might be a little bit higher because he's technically a Celestial. No spoilers as to why that might be the case. But
Keyless 18.
There's some...
And you got, of course, this is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Primarily because it's like the whole family portrait.
Yes, the family portrait of the Dorolos.
Yes, I really like that. It's well done.
Again, the art is fantastic in this book, so that in and of itself is great.
Yes, it's very fantastic.
But that's it. Those are your 6 chapters, lots of information, tons. I mean, this book is almost 300 pages. It is a thick chonker of a book. It's a big book. It's got a lot of information, a lot of art, tons of lore. You can dig into it as much or as little as you want, like we said.
Yep.
But if you really want to play a long-term campaign setting in Tal'Dorei, I think this is something you definitely have to consider.
Or if you're looking for maybe a not as run-of-the-mill adventure setting to run, even if you're not specifically looking for this setting, this is a good option because there's plenty of content in here, both from the very unique magic items that will stand out, from the traditional 5th edition adventure books that are out there, a lot of which are also very good.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to intentionally stray away from what's standard adventure books out there, and you wanted a book maybe because you're scared of DMing a whole campaign by yourself first time, this guy was only done like 5 or 6 one-shots. But in any kind of book like this does give you a very, it's a huge area of support to be able to give you everything you would need to run a campaign.
All the lore. Like, I don't think there is any official book that has as much lore, because you usually will get an official setting or whatever, and you're going to have a good chunk of like world lore, And they might give you a little bit on, the Pantheon. They might give you a little bit on some factions. This has like 20 factions. It has 3 categories of deities. There is a ton. It has individual chapters for multiple regions, like 10 or 12 regions.
Yeah.
It has so much information.
Matt Mercer's a madman. And is really what that boils down to.
He's spent years and years and years creating lore and just fleshing it out more and more and more. And you can definitely tell in this book. And the other part is it has tons of character creation stuff on it. So I think it's really good for both players and DMs.
Yep.
Though there is so much information for DMs.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah, especially if you're looking for a book to run a campaign. I guess the final thing we need to discuss before we close is if you did not get the original book and you've kind of waffled back and forth, I would recommend the book because it's got a ton of stuff both for players and for DMs that you could get a good access out of. If you already have the original book, there's not a ton extra in here besides just more details of what you already had. There are a few new subclasses, but there's balancing that would be improvements over the base. So what you do is you find a friend who's maybe also thinking about it. Maybe give them your original copy, then you get the new one.
Yeah, I think it's probably if you don't have the first one, definitely worth it.
Yeah.
If you do have the first one, I think with all of the updates and extra world lore, it's probably worth it.
Yeah.
But it's not like necessary. You'll have enough to go on with the world with the original book.
Yeah.
But I think with all the updates, I would say it's warranted. I think the art in of itself is cool enough.
Yes, especially if you're a DM.
Yeah,
especially
it's really cool. But yeah, guys, we're big fans of this book. The subclasses are really cool and interesting, and the updates are really good.
Especially Room Child. Go back and
watch
our videos.
Yes.
Self-plug.
Yes. So yeah, go back and watch through the subclass videos so you can get a better feel for all of that stuff.
Yep.
But yeah, big fans on here of this setting.
And for those of you that haven't watched The Legend of Vox Machina show, we also get a review video of our thoughts on the whole first season. If you have access to Prime Video, and even if you happen to catch one of our videos like this one and you're maybe new to D&D, you're trying to figure some things out, it's still a fun show worth a watch if you have Prime Video to watch.
The show definitely will get you the too long didn't watch version of
the TLDW.
And I know people have thoughts for or against Critical Role.
Sure.
Not to get into it, but it's a bunch of friends playing a game. How they do it or how they don't do it, don't ever expect your games to go as anyone else's games ever go, let alone a bunch of professionals playing. So look at it as a show. It's entertainment. Don't try to base your games or anything on any of that because it's not going to be that.
I will say I've got a pretty good DM, but he's not Matt Mercer.
No. I ain't got time to write a 300-page book, But I do what I can. And I think we have pretty good time doing that. So
yeah, we do.
That's what it's all about. It's having fun, making stories with your friends, and just having a good time.
And acting a fool sometimes. Sometimes it's necessary.
But guys, that's all for today. Make sure you check out our sponsors again, Hit Point Press and their Big Bad series.
Huge thanks to them.
All their awesome stuff, guys. They make awesome homebrew stuff that's thoroughly tested and well made as well. So make sure you check them out. And as always, guys,